What's up, people from the tube? Welcome back to another Pancho Things. So today I'm going to be talking about my take on either using monitor speakers or headphones, or when to use one rather than the other one. Let's get started. So with the evolution of being able to work extremely mobile today's day when it comes to music production, we see a lot of people working with cans or headphones because it's logically more convenient. Now, for me particularly, there's going to be instances when I will rather do one option versus the other one. We'll start on that. So for me particularly, I will rely most of the times when possible on speakers, monitor speakers, and the reason being is if I'm working in a room that is being acoustically designed and the frequencies are working properly, I feel more comfortable. For me, I get way better results working with loudspeakers than versus the headphones. Now, that doesn't mean that during the process of a mix or an editing or a mastering process, now every so often I resort to go back to my cans and make sure that the space and the dynamics that I'm hearing on the monitors, speakers, will translate, and it will be exactly what I'm looking for even on the cans as well. So when it comes to me and my philosophy, and when it comes to one versus the other one, is interesting since for me, when it comes to equipment, audio equipment, besides it is a matter of knowing when to apply a particular piece of gear, it is also how well you know that piece of gear. For example, working with a pair of monitors, I have one of the first versions of the Mackie's HR8, which is what I work for this room. Normally I work with focals, but the focals twin B6s or the trios are way too big for this room. It's way too much for this little room, so they're not in operation. I got them out. We're working with this. The reason why I chose these monitors is because I have worked with them for years, and I know them. I know what the bass response is. I know what the mids and high frequencies are, and I know from what I'm hearing what really is translating and what is not translated, which is where the issue is. Sometimes we get to the speakers and we listen to them and we mix, and I say, oh my god, sounds great, everything is amazing. Then you plug that track into a different piece of gear and translate it to a different system, and it does not sound correct. You might have a lot of bass missing, possibly because the speaker has an accentuation in bass, or vice versa. You might end up having way too much bass because the speaker actually has a cut on the bass, and when you're mixing, you start boosting or cutting these frequencies, and then you translate that to a different system, and then you realize that it was mostly the speaker what it was giving you the problem, not actually that you're mixing properly or not. So for me, is working with a monitor speakers, to me logically the idea is to get into a pair of speakers that are flat and that you can get the right response. But oftentimes when you have a set of speakers that is completely flat, and then you need to get to the next level of making sure that you're saturating everything properly, that everything is pumping, that the mix is just kicking right away in the right spot, then the way to flat speaker might be just that, way too flat, and you don't get the response. So then you're getting to the point where, like, I normally suggest, if you have a system, to get a subwoofer just to use to compare and see where things are sitting. And in that way, you know, like if those lower frequencies are way too saturated, as soon as you bring in that subwoofer, you're gonna know. So as for the headphones and cans, I also find them that they're useful in certain places. Now, I have mixed and edit in an airplane. Logically, you're not gonna be carrying a pair of monitor speakers in an airplane. So logically, the cans come handy. So and it does. Where now, for me particularly, I will acquire ear fatigue faster with cans with monitor speakers, even though that me personally, I will set up my gain stages, make sure that everything is balanced, and I will quite often I will mix in higher volumes, and through the mix I will bring down just to make sure that my processing and everything is, if it's breathing, that is not noticeable within the mix, that everything with higher volume versus lower volume, everything stays the same, and the correlation of those frequencies are the same. So those are instances where my cans come in. Now, other instances where the cans are going to come in handy, if you're working in an environment where you have a lot of pollution, sonic pollution outside of right next to the speakers, or either because you have an open window, or either because there's other people around and you need to focus on what's happening and not get any distraction or any pollution, so you can make the right decisions when it comes to the mixing or EQing or compressing or whatever the case might be. Cans work wonderful. Now, not every cans, not every monitors are exactly made the same. So I'm going to give you now what my preferred cans and monitors are. So let's start with the cans. Me personally, been working with these guys for years, and once again, I know them pretty well, and I love them. That will be my Sony 75s 06s. Really standard, really flat, extremely comfortable. They're not super heavy. Pros and cons, they're $100. They're not super expensive. They do the job really well. As I said, I know these headphones really well, so I put the things on and I know exactly what's happening, and I know exactly how much to cut or how much to boost versus what I'm hearing, exactly what it is. Sometimes cases that you put headphones and you hear something that is extremely bright, but when you hear them in another system, it's just correct. So because I know them, they work really well. They're flat. These headphones were used mostly in filming, and the reason being is because they're extremely flat, extremely accurate, and they're don't weigh a ton and give you fatigue on your body. They're really comfortable. So one of the other things that I love, the fact that you can replace the muff pads. This is probably the third set of pads that I put in these headphones. These headphones are 10 plus years old, so they do the job really well. So that's my favorite headphones. For all the ones that I have worked in the past, and I will say they're phenomenal, we got the Beyerdynamics 770s, phenomenal, a little bit more on the heavier side. And if you are like me and you like to mix and play back and in the louder space, that might not be the greatest option because they have a little bit more of an impedance load than the Sonys per se. So besides the Sonys and the Beyerdynamics, my other option would probably be the Audio-Technicas M50Xs. They're great headphones as well. They're really balanced. They're not super heavy. You got interchangeable cables, which you don't have that with the Sonys or the Beyerdynamics, but you do have that with the Audio-Technicas. And they're really nice. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're extremely good quality. So those will be my three picks. My first pick will be my Sony 7506s, Beyerdynamic 770s, and then Audio-Technica M50Xs. As for monitor speaker, sometimes we have to make the decision of working with something that we can afford, and what are the compromises that you get with that. For the lower range of pricing when it comes to speaker, now I don't know if you can find this particular model of speakers, but if you can find the Mackies HR8s, the first, second, or third edition of those monitors, they're really nice. They have a slight accentuation on the they have a slight accentuation on the low end, but once again, when you learn to hear the monitor, you can understand it, and you know exactly what to do logically. Me personally, I will go with focals on either whatever versions. Preferably, if I'm working in a really good room with a decent size, that will be or the twin sixes, or I will go with the trios. They're three-way monitors, and they're phenomenal. They're amazing sounding speakers, and it translates perfectly. And for me particularly, that's what I'd rather work with, because I understand now. They are more on the higher price than you will say maybe Mackies or Yamahas or KRKs, which me personally, and I'm not saying anything wrong, I'm not bashing on anybody here, I'm not a big fan of the KRKs. The amount of accentuations on every single frequency that there is on those monitors is quite high. So, and it's a monitor that, yeah, is a good quality monitor, but unfortunately, when you grab anything out of that system and put it somewhere else, there's a lot of tweaking that you might have to do, or at least that's been my experience. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that I'm gonna have to be going like back and forward 700 times into 3 different systems just to make sure that everything is translating properly around all the systems. Which a lot of people are gonna be like, well, it's just gonna depend. When I'm talking about system, I'm talking what I have. My mix is translated the same from my studio into a vehicle. Yes, I understand the sonic qualities on both are going to be completely different, that their production systems are going to be different, but you should be able to translate that mix without losing 75% of the work that you have done. Go and place it on a vehicle, and I'm like, whoa, I don't have any bass at all on this mix, but when you listen to in the system with the KRKs, the bass is pounding and it's great. And that's the case, that's the problem. The problem is that the bass is so highly accentuated on those speakers that what you're hearing is not necessarily true. So you have to go back and forward a couple of times. So that's, for me personally, if I have to go through 2 customer level pricing speakers, I will stay with the Mackies HR series, or I will stay with the Yamahas. Yamahas, I feel that the amount of power that you get out of them is quite low, but the quality is there, and they're flat. So, which in theory the word flat is thrown around so randomly in today's state. Like, yeah, in theory flat is gonna be almost non-existent. Every brand and every company will have their own particular format of how they accentuate something on a pair of speakers, but they're reliable. I will say, sonically wise, they're reliable. What you're hearing and the representation what you're hearing is going to be logically the closest that you can. Now, that can change in a heartbeat on a room. If the room doesn't have any acoustic treatment, and the room is not treated and the frequencies are bouncing all around the place, then it don't matter so much when it comes to the speaker. You're gonna have certain issues, and you gotta understand the issues of the room in order for you to be efficient when it comes to mixing and everything. But sidetracking here, so that will be Mackies, Yamaha. If I have to go now we need to start plugging into the premium brands, then we're looking at focals, we're looking at Barefoot, phenomenal speakers, not cheap, but phenomenal, they're amazing. Genelec has been out there for many years, even though that for me Genelec are a little bit on the brighter side, but they're phenomenal monitors. And Neumann has a series of monitors also that they're super great. Now, once again, this is not the cheapest monitors that you're gonna find, but it's the quality that you're gonna get is just above and beyond of what you can even imagine. So there you have it. That's my take. I would rather mix on monitor speakers. Today's day work demands, for efficiency and mobility issues, you might end up working with cans because that's gonna work better. So always remember, just because you have X brand, X model of a piece of gear, doesn't mean that everything is gonna be there automatically and by miracles everything is great. You gotta learn the equipment, you gotta learn what the equipment does, what the response is sonically wise, what are you hearing is proper, not proper. You gotta study and understand the piece of gear. So that's my take. I would rather work with monitors, but logically that's not the case constantly. So if I have to rely on cans, for sure, for me particularly, for my taste and how much I know those headphones, it will be the 7506s by Sony. And monitors, as long as the room is proper. If you are in a small room, logically having a way too big of a massive speaker will not be beneficial to you and or the musical projects that you're working on. So if you're gonna rely on a more consumer level set of speakers, just be aware that there's certain brands out there that are extremely accentuated in certain frequencies, and that will make your life a little bit harder. When you transfer those tracks to another system, you're gonna realize that you're missing a lot of quality when it comes to certain frequencies or not. So that's my take. If you guys have any questions, just hit me down in the comments. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and as the name says, click the notification bell so you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. And I will see you in the next one. Pancho out.